Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the Catherine Crochets podcast. Hello, my name's Catherine. I'm a crochet designer from South London in the UK, and this is my podcast where I chat about my recent crochet and also a little bit of knitting projects. You can find me on Instagram as Catherine Crochets, and I sell my patterns on Etsy, Savory and Lovecraft, and I'll pop links in the show notes below to all the places where you can find me and where you can buy my patterns, and also to any other patterns that I talk about during the podcast. So just have a look down there if you want to find anything. I also have an email list that you can sign up to, and you get 2 free patterns for signing up, and also I send a newsletter out every month and news whenever I release a new pattern with a discount code for my email list, which is bigger than the discount that I offer anywhere else. So welcome to today's podcast. Welcome back if you've watched before, and big hello as well if you're new here. I've got a few different projects to talk to you about today. I've got a couple of blankets, some mittens, a jumper, and some socks, although they're not looking very sock-like yet, but I'll show you what I've got so far of them. So first up, I'd like to show you a blanket which was actually first published in a magazine back in February. I'll just put my notebook down. In Crochet Now magazine back in February this year, but I have now this morning released it as a pattern, as an individual pattern. So if you didn't get it in the magazine, or if you don't want to buy the whole magazine, you can buy it now as an individual pattern. And the pattern is the Copernicus blanket, and it is a blanket. It's a really big snuggly one. It's made using tapestry crochet, which if you're new here you might not know this, but if you've watched before, you'll know that I'm a big fan of tapestry crochet, and it is a technique that I use a lot in most of my designs. It's hexagonal, I'm not sure if I said that already, so it's proving quite hard to hold up and show to you, but hopefully you're getting a flavour of it. If I go like that, then that might help, and then I'll reappear again in a moment. So yeah, so it's a really big hexagonal blanket, and I use tapestry crochet to make the star patterns, and yeah, it's got a big tassel on each of the 6 corners. So it's a really good size for snuggling under. It'd be a great size for children to play with as well. You could make dens with it, they could put it on the floor, have tea parties around it. I think it's got lots of uses, and it would look great in lots of different rooms in your home. It could be in the lounge, looking sort of modern and stylish, or it could be in a child's bedroom, perhaps in more sort of fun, child-friendly colours. But I think it'd be really good in lots of different ways. The yarn is Paintbox Yarns Simply Aran yarn, which is obviously an Aran weight yarn, and it's 100% acrylic. I think it's what people call a premium acrylic yarn, which means it's a nice quality. It's not rough or anything. It is soft. It comes in lots of different colours as well, so you could obviously do this in whatever colours you fancied. What else can I tell you about it? It's the pattern's in UK and in US crochet terms, and there's links in the patterns to some tutorials which show you how to do the techniques in the blanket. So they don't show you how to actually make the whole blanket, but they show you how to do all the different techniques that you need in the blanket, mainly to do with the tapestry crochet techniques, and they're also all on my YouTube channel here, so you can just go to the tutorials section of my YouTube channel and have a look, and you'll find them all there anyway if you want ones to have a look. But yeah, this is the Copernicus blanket. So it came out, I released it this morning on Etsy and Ravelry, and there's currently a discount running until Sunday. So hopefully I'll get this video edited and uploaded in time. So if you watch this in the first day or so and you'd like to get the pattern, just go to Etsy or Ravelry and put in the discount code COP15, COP15. I'll put this underneath as well, and just put in the discount code when you're checking out and you can get 15% off the pattern. That only is available until Sunday, so you have to be quick if you want to get that. And as I said, I've also told all my email list subscribers about the pattern release as well, and they've got a different discount code to get a bigger discount. So if you want to get a bigger discount next time, make sure you sign up to my email list. But yeah, so this is the Copernicus blanket. So I'm really pleased to get that out there now as my own pattern in my store with all my other blanket patterns. So I hope you like that one. Right, that one's quite hard to hold up, but the other projects are a bit smaller, so hopefully they'll be a bit easier to show you without me doing strange things with my arms and disappearing all the time. So that was the first blanket. So I said I had two to talk to you about. The other one isn't finished yet, and it is a pattern test that I'm doing for another designer. I've already tested the pattern. It's the blanket, I'll show you in a sec, but it's got different sections that are repeated throughout the blanket, which is made in rows. So once you've done the sections once, then it's the same thing again. So for the test, we didn't need to complete the whole blanket. We just had to work through all the sections at least once, which I did. So although I haven't finished my blanket, the pattern has been tested and released, so you can get it, but I'm still working on my blanket and finishing it off. So this is the blanket. It's got a bit crumpled actually in the project bag, so when I've finished it I'll wash it and get rid of all those wrinkles. But I'm doing it again, aren't I? I'm having to hold it up and hide behind it. Should I hold it on that side? I don't know what's better, otherwise I'm in shadow. So this is the Hopes and Wishes blanket, and it is designed by Angel at Crochet. I'm not actually sure, I should have asked how you pronounce it, but I'll pop a link to their store and Instagram profile as well if you want to follow them and check it out. But yeah, this is the Hopes and Wishes blanket. So it's got, I'll hold it a bit closer so you can see, it's got different sections. It's a really textured blanket, and it's got 3 different sections. So you start off with this section, which is section A, and then that you can see is repeated. I've done it in different colours, but the same section is here, 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 here. So it's repeated between all the other sections. And then you've got a section B, which is here, and you've got a section C, which is here. Now in the pattern, section C should actually be a bit bigger than that, probably I think at least twice the size, but I was running out of that colour yarn. And the pattern also, it doesn't call for quite so many different coloured yarns, but I was doing this as a bit of a stash busting project to use up some yarn I had in lots of different colours. So that's why mine's got so many different colours, but the pattern suggests to use fewer colours for it. I think just 3, but it might be 4, I can't remember. What I'll do is I'll pop in a picture to show you what the designer's version of the blanket looks like, because I think it looks much better than mine, how it's turned out with these colours. But yeah, so you've got 3 different sections, and they've each got really nice texture. So you can see the first section A has got these like puffy stitches. This has got a really interesting texture as well, and then this is a is a herringbone section, so which was new stitch to me. I've not used it before, but that's really nice too. And then I've gone back to section B, and then on the herringbone section again here C. So it's obviously it's going to build up and be much bigger. The yarn I'm using is Moya yarn, which is a 100% cotton DK yarn, which was sent to me, it might have been a couple of years ago now, from Moya, who are based in South Africa, to try out. And they sent me quite a really nice selection of yarns in lots of different weights. And I did use quite a bit of it to make various small things, but I got one ball, they're really nice cakes actually rather than balls, in each colour. So a lot of my projects I tend to use a few colours but quite a large amount of each colour, but I only had one ball in each colour that they sent me, although they sent me a lot of different colours. So I was kind of waiting for the right sort of project to use to put all those colours in. So this blanket hopefully will use up quite a few of the different colours, although I think I'm still going to have a lot of scraps left over. But I'm going for the blues, greens, yellows, those sorts of colours. So I think it's probably because it's cotton, 100% cotton, that might be why it's creased a bit. But with a bit of washing and blocking, they should all come out. Yeah, so this is the Hopes and Wishes baby blanket from Crochet, and it is out now, and I'll pop a link below if you'd like to get the pattern. So that's the second of the two blankets that I had to show you today. I've got a bit of knitting to show you, but I think I'm going to stick with the crochet for now, because I am mainly a crocheter, and so I'm guessing that's why most of you are here, is for the crochet. I did a post on Instagram recently of some knitting of this jumper actually, which I'm going to talk about later. And then when I was looking at the data, there was one day where I had a big dip of people unsubscribing. Well, it was about 12, and I looked what I'd posted on that day. It was this jumper, which is knitting. So I wondered if it was the fact that it was knitting that made people leave. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm going to stick with the crochet first. So this project, I showed you last time a mitten that I'd made, which was this one, and said I wasn't 100% happy with it. It was the thumb. It was all right when I put it on, but the thumb sort of stuck out at a weird angle. And also the pattern here, it went round that side, but it didn't go around that side. So I wanted to see if I could get the pattern going all the way round. So it did take quite a lot of trying things out, frogging back, trying again, frogging back. There was an awful lot of frogging, and it took quite a long time to get the design tweaked to my satisfaction, but I did eventually, and I now have, I haven't sewn in all the ends yet, so you have to forgive me, there's a couple of loose ones here still, but this is the final design, so that you can see when you take it off, the thumb is nice and flat, it doesn't stick out at an odd angle, well, the whole thing's flat, and the colour work pattern goes all the way around continuously with no breaks, and it also fits. So my finger tip goes right up to the top, my thumb goes to the tip there, and this bit here sits there, and this is around my wrist, so it all fits fine. My husband did say, especially when you take it off, that it looked a bit long, which I think it does look long. Like I feel like it should perhaps only be that up to there to be a mitten. Maybe that's because we're used to seeing children's mittens more than adults' mittens, I don't know. But if I made it shorter, it wouldn't fit, because my finger, like I say, does go right up to the end there. So finally, after lots and lots of frogging, finished the the design, got it to a point where I was happy with it, and I've now started making mitten number 2, which, as you can see, it's got some loose ends as well, but it is very nearly finished as well. And then there you go. And then is it better like that? No, I don't know. And then I'll have a pair of mittens. So I was making these for the hobby yarn challenge in October, which was called My Favourite Hobby Friends, because Hobby have released some new ranges of yarn called Hobby Friends yarn, and they're in a whole load of different weights and fibres, and they set a challenge in October to use some of their new friends yarns and create a project either with a friend where you both make the same, or coordinating things, or for a friend and for yourself. So I'm going to make 2 pairs of mittens at least, one for me and one for a friend, and send them to them as soon as they're ready. So the yarn I've used for this is Hobby Friends Extra Fine Merino, which is, well, they call it yarn weight 2. I think they have a different system to us. Can you see that there? Fine. And the recommended hook size is 4 to 4.5 millimeters. I think, I can't remember, I've written it down anyway. I think I might be using a 3 millimeter hook. I'm not sure. Anyway, to get it nice and tight for the crochet colour work. So this is obviously 100% merino. Let me just check. Yeah, 100% merino wool. It is really, really soft and light and smooth. The one thing I would say about it is that when I was crocheting with it, I did find that it tended to sort of untwist slightly and then split a little bit occasionally. I did hear on another podcast, I can't remember which one, someone talking once about yarns and the direction of the twist being better suited somehow for knitting, whereas when you're crocheting, I think it might be if you're a right-handed crocheter, which I am, it might not be an issue if you're left-handed, I can't remember, but the way in which you crochet, it can have the effect to sort of untwist the yarn, and the standard direction of twist of yarn is such that it's not so good if you're crocheting, something like that. Anyway, but I've never noticed it before when I've been crocheting, that a yarn, sometimes with cotton yarn it splits a bit, but that seemed to be more to do with the fact it was cotton, although maybe it's the fact it's cotton and the twist. But with this yarn, which is merino, not cotton, I did notice sometimes that it seemed to sort of untwist a little bit and split, which was a little bit annoying at times, but it wasn't all the time. And once it's all worked up, it was absolutely fine, and it's really, really nice and smooth. So I wouldn't not use the yarn because of it, but I just thought I'd mention it because it was something that I did notice with the yarn. So I've also got the merino yarn in this sort of biscuity colour. I've got it in some more in the creamy white and the bluey green, and I've also got it in a dark grey. So I'm thinking for the next pair, I'm not decided yet, but I quite like that as a combination. I think that looks good. Possibly with the mainly being beige as the main colour and blue for the little sort of width for the pattern, for the crosses, possibly the other way around. I think the dark grey would only really go with the white, but I think that would look nice as well, perhaps having a white mitten with dark grey crosses on it, or patterns. And then also, one of the features of the Friends yarn is that, like I said, it's available in lots of different fibres and weights, and all the colours have got the same, I'm dropping balls all over the place here, all the fibres have got the same colour number across the yarns, so you can get, I mean, you can see a bit of a difference, but that's to do with the fibre and the way it reflects the light rather than the actual colour, but you can get the same colour in 2 different yarns. So I have the same 4 colours also in kid silk yarn, which is super thin. You can see how thin it is. So I'm thinking what I might do is make a pair with at least for the cuff and possibly for the colour work bit, not the whole thing I don't think, but maybe just the crosses, holding double with the kid silk. And because it's so fine, I'm hoping it wouldn't affect the overall gauge, but I think it would give a nice cosy fluffy cuff. So I'm going to try a pair like that as well. I also want to work it out in a larger size for men and in a smaller size, at least one smaller size for children. But it's not, I don't think it's going to be I don't know if it even sounds straightforward, but I don't think it's going to, I was going to say it's not going to be as straightforward as it sounds, but I don't think it even sounds that straightforward. But that's mainly because I think because it's got a colour work pattern as well, and that has got like a 4-stitch repeat front and back. So I think width wise I can probably do it just adding or taking off 8 stitches, but then I'm going to have to work out the height and when to increase and by how much and things like that. So it's going to take a bit of work to figure it out in 2 more sizes. So I am keen to get this out as soon as possible, because obviously it's winter, or coming into winter now in the Northern Hemisphere, and that's when people want mittens, isn't it? So hopefully I'll be able to focus on that over the next week or so, and then work out the pattern for both a smaller size and a larger size, and then get it tested. So with a bit of luck, I'm hoping I'll get it finished and released before the end of the year, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. Definitely this winter though. So yeah, those are my mittens, which I am really pleased with how they turned out in the end. But it did take, for something so small, it did take an awful lot of work to get the right shape and fit, because normally I just make rectangular things or things with a sort of predefined geometric shape, and not things like mittens that have to fit round a hand, which is quite a strange 3-dimensional shape. So it was quite a challenge, but it was fun. And yeah, hopefully that pattern will be coming soon, and I'll keep you updated in the next podcast with any more mittens I've made in more colours and sizes, hopefully. Right, so that is the last bit of crochet. So if you're not interested in knitting at all, then you could stop watching now, because I think that might be the end of the crochet chat, or at least the crochet things I have to show you. So moving on to the knitting. So I am wearing the Felix jumper that I was knitting in the last podcast, and I have finished it, and I'm really happy with it. This is a pattern by Amy Christoffers, I think, from Savory Knitting. I'll link it below, and I'll stand up so you can see the full thing. It is a little bit shorter than I wanted it. Well, not than I wanted it, but when I tried it on when it was finished, I would have liked it a little bit longer. But I'm wearing it with a skirt, and I think this length looks fine with a skirt or a jumper, but with, oh, not a jumper, sorry, a dress probably. But with jeans, with my jeans, it doesn't look quite so good being so short. I prefer them a bit longer when I'm wearing a jumper, with jeans. But yeah, apart from that, I'm really happy with the fit. I made it in the smallest size. In lots of the pictures, I think people wear it quite a bit looser than this. I'm a UK size, sort of between a 10 and a 12. But I do like my jumpers sort of more fitted than loose, or quite often I do. Sometimes it's nice to have a loose one, but I wanted this one to be a bit fitted. So size wise, I think the smallest size in the pattern is perfect for me. But yeah, like I said, I just probably should have done a few more rounds on the length before moving on to the ribbing. It's not perfect at all. There's something weird going on this sleeve where, I don't know if you can see it, probably not, but there's a round about here, I think, where for some reason I decided to wrap the yarn the opposite way around the needle for one round, so the stitches look ever so slightly different. But one time I'd realised that I'd done that, I'd done a few more rounds and couldn't be bothered to go back and undo it all. Also on one of the cuffs, I can't remember which one, should be able to find it, but I dropped a stitch and there's a horrible bit where I've gone backwards and forwards, trying to save it as best I could, because that is the problem with knitting, isn't it? With crochet, if you lose a few stitches, it doesn't matter, you just pick up the last hook and keep going again. But with knitting, if you drop a stitch, before you know it, you've gone back miles, and it's not straightforward, is it, to undo your knitting? You can't just frog it like you can with crochet. You have to actually unknit every stitch. Yeah, so there's a few mistakes, but on the whole I was really pleased with how it turned out. The yarn is, I brought a ball to show you, and so I wouldn't forget what it's called. It is Drops Nepal, which is an Aran yarn, and it has got alpaca in it. It is 65% wool and 35% alpaca, and it's really soft. It's not itchy at all, although I don't normally have an issue with wool anyway, but it is quite a smooth feeling wool, I think. And I definitely use this yarn again, I think, if I was making another jumper that needed Aran yarn, maybe choose a different colour. But yeah, that's really happy with the yarn. When I was making it, when I realised that it was a little bit shorter than I would have liked, I was watching Emma at MSC Makes' podcast, and she was making something with alpaca yarn as well, and mentioned that apparently she had found out that alpaca yarn actually stretches quite a lot, and that was an issue for her. But when I heard that, I thought, wow, that might actually work out well for me, in that if it does stretch, it will give me a bit more length on it than what I had. And I think it might have stretched a bit actually, and made it a bit longer. So that, I think, that has probably worked out as a good thing for me, although it's not massively noticeable, the amount of stretch, maybe because it's only 35% alpaca, but I think it has grown a bit as I've been wearing it. But yeah, it's really warm, really cozy, and I really like it. It's got quite a wide neckline, so I'm wearing it at the moment with a vest underneath, but I had it on before with the t-shirt, but then the t-shirt, just a black t-shirt, but then you could see the t-shirt, the neckline of the t-shirt wasn't as wide as this. I haven't got any like wider neckline t-shirts, and it didn't look so good sort of having black t-shirt visible here and here. I think it would look nice maybe over a shirt or a blouse, but I don't have any. So I think generally though I will be wearing it over a t-shirt as opposed to over a vest. So yeah, I'll might have to just put up with a bit of black showing. But yeah, that's sort of, I guess that's a function of having made something with this like wide neckline. So something for me to look out for next time, perhaps when choosing a pattern. But yeah, really happy with that. So having finished the Felix sweater, or pullover I think it's called, I was keen to cast on another knitting project. I think I mentioned before, I'm trying to try and limit myself to just having one knitting project on the go at any one time. no limit to the number of crochet projects, but I feel like I shouldn't have more than one knitting project on the go, because crochet is my main thing, and if I have too many knitting projects on the go, I just won't have time to kind of keep going with the crochet projects, especially the designs that I like, the mittens that I want to get finished. But anyway, I showed you this yarn before last time, I think. This is West Yorkshire Spinners signature 4-ply yarn. This is in Nutmeg, and I am making the October socks, which is a pattern by Emma Potter from Potter and Bloom. Now this is, I did do a post on Instagram yesterday, I think it was, showing my October socks, and you couldn't really see much because it was all sort of curled up, and it was with a picture of the mittens as well anyway. But it was a bit bigger than this. But having done that afterwards, I discovered two things. One I realised already was that I was knitting the socks inside out. So I'm using the magic loop method of knitting, and I'm sure I'm doing it the way it said to in the tutorial that I watched, which was to knit across the back of the two halves of your loop. But when you do that, then, so if you're knitting across the back needle, then that obviously means that that inside bit there is the front of your sock. So I was essentially knitting them inside out. And I don't know if that in itself would have been a problem. I can't think of a reason why it would, but there might be something I'm missing, because presumably you could just knit the whole sock and then turn it inside out at the end. But what it did mean was that when I tried to put them in the photograph, I sort of flipped it round, and it was then curling up on itself quite a bit and looked a bit strange. So I'm not sure if that in itself was a problem, but what it did mean was that then in the pattern, when I followed the instructions to move on to the heel, I ended up making the heel actually the other way round to the outside of the sock, if that makes sense. So I had the right side of the heel was on the opposite side to the right side of the leg of the sock. So once I'd done that, I realised that this was just completely wrong, and I watched another tutorial about the magic loop which showed it working across the front bit, which I'd kind of worked out in my head that you could do it either way round anyway, and I thought, well, that must just be perhaps more the standard way, and by chance I'd watched a funny tutorial the first time, I'm not sure. But anyway, and another issue was that the leg was quite short, and I hadn't noticed that there's actually a correction to the pattern saying that the number of repeats for the leg to do in the pattern can actually be longer than what it says in the pattern. Well, the pattern did say that, but the sort of suggested amount was very short. But I got there, started the heel, and did the heel round the wrong way. So I thought, right, that's it. I'm just going to start the whole thing again. This is getting quite long-winded, isn't it? Which I have now done. So I have just redone the ribbing, and I've done 2 rounds, which you can barely see because there's only 2 of them, of the leg. And yeah, it seems to be all going fine, and I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to make the leg longer before I start the heel, and I'm going to make sure I get the heel round the right way so it's not the same way. The only thing I have noticed is that for this ribbing, which is knit 1 and then purl through the back loops, I think mine actually looks better. So that's the right side, which will be the outside of the sock, and if I show you the inside, I'm not sure if it's showing up very well, but I think the inside of my ribbing actually looks neater than the outside. Can you see the difference? What if I poke that bit down there? Then that's the inside, that's the outside. There's not much difference, but it is ever so slightly neater, I think, the stitches there on the inside than on the outside. Does anybody else ever find that with that sort of ribbing? I don't know. It looks fine anyway. So that's an October sock. And I decided, although I bought the yarn in 3 different colours, so I've also got it in red and blue, because I thought I could either do a sock in red and blue, or I could do a sock in red and cinnamon. I wouldn't do, sorry, blue and cinnamon, but I wouldn't do one in red and cinnamon. But I've decided for this first pair of socks I'm going to keep it simple, because I've never knitted socks before, and just do it all in one colour in cinnamon, and then see how that goes, and maybe next time do one with like different colour cuffs and heels and toes and what have you. So yeah, that is the October sock, which I have started for the second time. And that's the last thing I have to show you today, in terms of things that I'm making, or in the process of making, or I've finished making. At the end of this month, as I mentioned before, I'm going up to do a workshop at the Crochet Sanctuary up near Crewe in the north of England. And my pattern for that, it's all finished, it's all written up, and this week I sent it out in secret to some testers from my pattern testing list, who are kindly testing it for me in secret, so that it will still be a surprise for the people coming to the workshop at the end of the month. So that should hopefully be finished by the end of next week, and then I can finalise the pattern and get it all sorted ready for the workshop at the end of the month. So I'll be going up to the workshop in 3 weeks today. Normally, I think it's 4 weeks since my last podcast, but normally I have been trying to do them every 3 weeks, but we had half term recently, which sort of messed things up a little bit. But I'm thinking my next podcast will probably also be when I get back after the Crochet Sanctuary workshop. So I will be able to show you the project then, and also release it. So it'll probably be a double releasing the pattern and talking about it to you in the podcast. So I'm really excited to be able to share that with you. I've not, apart from things that I've done for magazines, I've not had a pattern before like this, where I've sort of been able to talk about it but not show it to you before I release it. So I'm really looking forward to being able to share that with you, and release the pattern as well at either right at the end of November or the start of December. There's something else I was going to say about it then, but it's popped out of my head, just looking at my notes. No, it's completely gone. It'll probably come back to me. So I remembered what I was going to say. I was going to say, normally when I release a pattern, it's either published in a magazine sometimes, or most often I have it tested, and then I just release it sort of electronically, put it up in my pattern store, send out emails and post on social media and tell everyone it's there. And then people can buy it if they want to, and work on the pattern. And generally by that point, with all the testing as well, there's not any mistakes in the patterns. I've not had anyone notice anything anyway. And it all goes fine. But this workshop will be the first time where I am releasing a pattern and actually going to be giving it to people live in the workshop, and then they'll be sitting there in the same room as me trying to make this pattern. And I am reassured that my testers say that they're managing to make it fine, which is really good, and I'm really pleased that these people have agreed to test it for me, because that gives me confidence in it. But I think it's much scarier again releasing a pattern by actually giving it to people. So I'm feeling a little bit nervous and apprehensive about that, and how people will find the pattern. And I really hope they make it, because they've paid for this weekend. They're going to be sitting in a room, and they're just going to be presented with it. They have no idea what's coming to them. So I hope they don't look at it and think, oh, I don't want to make this, and they enjoy it and they can understand the pattern and follow it, because they won't just be emailing me to tell me if they can't, or just not making it. They'll actually be in the room with me at the time. So fingers crossed it all goes well and they like it, and any mistakes are all picked up and sorted out beforehand. I'm sure they will be. But yeah, I just wanted to say it's a little bit scary. It feels a little bit scarier than normal releasing this pattern in a workshop rather than just electronically. So plans for the coming month really is finishing off the mittens, going to the workshop, working a bit more on my hopes and wishes blanket. And then I've also been thinking about Christmas and handmade gifts, and I always leave it quite late really to think about this. And I do like the idea of making handmade gifts, but to make anything big you do have to start obviously quite a lot in advance, and I should probably start planning the gifts in January each year if I wanted to make lots for lots of people. But I haven't, so I have been thinking about it and whether to do something. And especially I wondered about making something for my two daughters. And I was sent this book earlier this year from David and Charles, who publish arts and crafts books and lots of crochet books. And it was to review, but I haven't managed to do anything with it yet. And it is called Curious Crochet Creatures by Irene Strange. And part of the reason they sent me another book to review, which I did. It was the one by Nomad Stitches, Sandra Gutierrez, called Colourful Crochet Knitwear, it was called, which I made things from and did a proper review, and that was the one I said I'd review. But at the same time they also sent me this one as a sort of bonus, which obviously it's amigurumi and it's not something that I do or have ever done much of at all. But what I was thinking was it could make quite a good Christmas present for my daughters to make them each one of these creatures, because they're all a little bit different to your sort of standard creatures. There's no bears or rabbits in here. They're all a little bit interesting and different, as you can probably see on the cover. So I haven't really got a feel of how long it would take me to make one, because they're all quite small, quite a lot of stitches. The stitches are quite small, I think, aren't they, for amigurumi? So I think I'd probably pick what seem to be the smaller projects, or the ones with the least amount of yarn. But I might try and make them each a creature, because they are absolutely gorgeous. So the whole book's divided up into sections by the type of creatures. So the first section here is the remarkable mammals section. So it has got animals. Some of the animals in this book I've never even heard of before. So here's the content. In the mammals, there's an aardvark, an echidna. This is the echidna. So it does look a bit like a hedgehog. I think if I made it for them, they'd probably think I'd made them an echidna. A hedgehog. This is the aardvark. There is a wombat, an orangutan, and a slender loris. Then in the sea life section, there's a pufferfish, which I think is this one here, a blue lobster, a narwhal. My older daughter did go through a phase a few years ago of being really into narwhals, but she hasn't really mentioned them much in the last couple of years. So I could make her one, but I'm not sure if she's still into them really. There's an octopus and a creature called a leafy sea dragon. These are all real creatures. And then the last section is called Bizarre Birds and Irregular Reptiles. This is obviously the octopus here. And there's a cassowary, which I think when I looked at it was a bird. Let's see if I can find it. You might know what these are. Here it is. That's the cassowary bird. I was just reading, it says down here, the cassowary is an emotional character. It can change the colour of its head and neck depending on what kind of mood it's in. That's quite cool. It'd be good if you could get colour changing yarn, wouldn't it? So there's a cassowary, a flamingo, a hoopoe, which is another one I hadn't heard of before, which is another bird, quite a cool bird. A chameleon, a crocodile, and a Mary River turtle, which has got quite a good head of hair on it, which apparently is algae. It's quite cute, isn't it? So there's quite a lot of really fun, interesting characters in there, Oh, and I've just noticed they've all got a difficulty level thing on them as well. So what I might do is pick 2 quick and easy patterns from here and have a go at making those as Christmas gifts for my daughters. But I will have the problem that I've talked about before, that obviously they'll need to be made in secret, and the main time when I crochet is in the evenings. My older daughter's 12 now, so her bedtime's sort of getting later and later all the time, so the amount of time that I'm awake after she goes to bed is getting shorter and shorter. So we'll have to see if I actually do manage to get a couple of creatures done, but that's what I'm thinking about anyway for my next project, which will be something really completely different for me, so quite keen to give that a try. And that's about it. That's all I've got to chat to you about this time. It's been quite long already, I think, so I have finished a couple of audiobooks. Sometimes I chat a bit about what I've been listening to, but I think I'll leave that for another time to mention what I've been listening to. But thank you very much for watching again. Please remember to like and subscribe, and do sign up to my email list as well if you'd like to. And thanks for watching, and have a lovely few weeks, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye bye.